Robots Radio presents...
Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity.
You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search. Focus that fire. And so we come together. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on November 20th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring Clovis Bray's journal. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the very vexy green-eyed music lover.
And this is Hey, It's Orchid.
The resident otter mom.
The resident otter mom. Hey, it's Orchid.
The resident
I was just going to go
mom.
For normal, but, you know.
That's not allowed around here, don't you
You had
know
to
that?
make it weird, Blue.
Yeah, that's my job.
Okay.
Well, so real quick before we dive in, just a couple real quick announcements. Just want to give a general reminder to check out thelorenetwork.com. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on the weekly roundups. You can also subscribe to the website over there, and that will give you those weekly roundups. We do 2 a week. We do one for podcast on Wednesday, and then one for all the lore YouTube videos of all the members of the Lore Network on Fridays. And then also, as always, if you don't mind giving us a review and a quick rating over on iTunes, it would be greatly appreciated. Same with the Destiny Lore audio file, which is Green's project. She is chugging away over there, actually getting some more entries into that project set up. I think have you got them scheduled for the rest of the year at this point? Or
Not quite. I've got some that are prepped that could be, but I'm trying to get the new books done first. I have backups in case the new books don't get done in time.
Completely. So. Well, and actually, that actually is the third announcement. This is going to be the last stream for 2020 for us, because we are going to take off of December as kind of our new tradition. Basically it's the gift that we give to ourselves of hey, Yay. you survived. And I think 2020 you definitely need that. So we will see you guys live stream. We will see you guys again in 2021. We might have a couple streams here and there depending on availability of everyone here. Don't worry though, for those on the podcast feed, I am building up backup of logs. I think I have enough right now built up that we will be getting roughly half to a quarter of the way through December. We have about 5 more shows that I'm going to be doing behind the scenes, and then once we do that, we will be good. So you guys will still have content, even though you won't have the live streams for the rest of the year. With all that being said, for tonight's episodes, what we're planning on doing, we're going to break them into the intro, the advanced sessions, just like always. The intro session, we're going to actually focus on the new information that is given to us from Clovis Bray's journals concerning the Vex. We actually got quite a bit of information. The reason why we want to do this is because the second session is going to be focused around the Exos. That's going to be the big brunt of a lot of the revelations that happened in this journal, which shouldn't come to a surprise for anybody who's kind of paid attention to this entry into the story of Destiny. Just a quick reminder, we talked about the Clovis Bray family on the previous episode, and then the episode before that we also just kind of talked about the general updates to the game. So that all being said, I'm going to, I think we could dive right into the kind of cocktail knowledge of what new information, I guess, did we get with the Vex Green Orchid? Do you want to jump into that one?
I think one of the biggest revelations is what is it called? The star. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head all of a sudden.
It's like
that...
Volunter, whatever it is.
Velantris?
Yeah, something. I don't have it in front of me because there's nothing in these show notes. They're blank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how fun my week's been.
Oh, yeah. But the Velantris is... Yeah, Dancing Veru. I was right.
Hey.
Velantris is the... You want to call it a star. That's what Clovis Bray calls it at first. But it's kind of, but also not. It doesn't have the same life cycle as a normal star.
Well, and to clarify, Volantis is the star, but I think it's like 2048 is the planet that they visit that circles right? I think if I remember that correctly,
like a Mercury version.
Yeah. It's a planet that is circling the star. So there is a star, but they're not going to the star. They are going to the
planet near the star.
The planet that is near the star, which is chat's talking about it right now. It's an immortal hypergiant, which is a very interesting thing because it should not be able to exist. But the Vex have reconfigured
The Vex
things.
are feeding it. They're cycle feeding it.
Which is fascinating. Like,
But that is probably one of the biggest revelations that we got about the Vex. Because with that, they were able to start harvesting Vex fluid from this area and bring it back to Europa through this giant Vex gate that Clovis Bray had done a raid on Ishtar Collective and stole a Vex.
Yes.
One Vex. And forced it into slave labor to make a giant gate, which is the gate that we see in the strike on Europa now. The new strike. Probably my favorite strike right now because it's actually
a
challenging. Yes, that too. It's challenging too. Like if you gotta pop in and out.
It's a fun nightfall.
The glass
It is
way.
fun. The glass way, yeah.
All arc damage is increased. Oh no.
Oh no, that's when you get Risk Runner out and just go balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Yay.
Or Trinity Ghoul.
Your Trinity Ghoul, yeah.
For those long range. That's what I've been using in there. It works real well.
You know,
I
me,
just
I'm
run
charge everything.
the
As a
Arc Strider.
warlock? Aren't
Arc
you
Strider
warlocking?
just
Yeah, right now I am. That's not going to last long.
Okay. I'm still playing Warlock.
I'm proud of you.
Given up on it. I haven't given up yet.
I'm proud of
gotten
you
real
that you
close. I've gotten real close. Not gonna lie. The floof has killed me more times than I care to admit.
It's an art, not a science.
It's
The art of
stupid.
floof. The art of
It's
floof.
so stupid.
Yeah.
I've walked off the map, and if you walk off the map, you just SOL. You can't recover.
Nope.
Unlike on Hunter.
No, you can't recover. You just die. But you die beautifully.
Yes. Gracefully.
To your death.
Slowly.
Yep.
Which is
so
painful.
talking about the star, it's on in the journal. It's about page 33. He says this is when they actually go through the gate. I think for the first time, Clovis and Elizabeth and a team of their people. He says, gateway analysis, non-gravitating, purely geometric traversable wormhole of the Ellis configuration. There is no singularity and no firewall. Just some notes there. And he says, we passed into a gallery of awesome light. It struck us to our knees. The probe imagery did not prepare us. A curtain of blue-violet fire filled an entire half of the sky, pebbled with granules, seething with promontories and flares. We stood beneath a blue hypergiant, titan of suns, looming over all. It should have killed my human-bodied companion instantly. With peak radiance in the far ultraviolet, it would cook flesh. But the probe said it was impossibly safe for life. We fanned out into ancient stone ruins pierced by dull metal towers and flickering lines of light. Though the rock was cracked and pitted by radiation, our geologist identified it at once. Felsic granite, he reported. No iron, no heavy metals at all. A lot more sodium, oxygen, boron, and aluminum than I expect, and a lot less silicon. Oh my God. What? I demanded. This rock is almost 13 billion years old, the geologist whispered. It formed with the very first generation of planets less than 1 billion years after the universe was born. We are standing on a dissected piece of one of the first worlds. That's not possible, the astronomer protested. That's a Type O hypergiant up there. They're lucky to live 2 million years, and its metallicity is 15 sigma above average. That is not an old star. I opened my proxy arms to the light. The gate had taken us to a miracle. This star was big enough to fill the solar system from the sun to the orbit of Neptune, bright enough to shine like the full moon even from the distance of Alpha Centauri. And yet here I was, unblinded. Something had tampered with this star. Our physicists identified a lensing effect, magnifying the star's optical size and redshifting its radiation. It was as if the whole behemoth was wrapped in some kind of skin, but that was only the beginning. So right here, what they're explaining is a variant of, and I think chat was talking about it real quick. It's a variant of a Dyson sphere, which is actually theoretically one of the ways that you can achieve, I think it's level 4 sentience in the hierarchy of like cosmological life signs. I think humans right now, I think we're at like 2.5, I think, is where we are in this. I can't remember off the top of my head. Like ties into like the Fermi paradox and different things of that nature. But a Dyson sphere basically is a concept that they would encase a star, or you would encase a star with machines, and then use the star to actually generate energy and actually be able to capture 100% of that energy. The challenge with most Dyson spheres is kind of exactly what is being talked about right here as being solved. How do you keep the star going? Like, all stars eventually will burn out, and that's what this is actually talking about. This lensing effect is actually, a way that the people or the existence of this planet have not only encased it, but actually are stoking it. He actually goes further and he says, our instruments identified glints of brighter light against the sunfire. They were orbiting mirror clusters, gathering the star's radiation and focusing it back, burning wounds into the photosphere. These solar stigmata hemorrhaged endless flares, geysers of energy and precious metals. Above these cutting mirrors, rings encircled the star like garrote wires. They were particle accelerators, generating blades of electromagnetic force that stabbed down into the star's skin through photosphere and tachocline toward the core. They're stirring it, I realized, to pull the metals out of the core and send fresh hydrogen down to fuse. Is it possible they had? They had refueled the star. They were stoking it. Enormous portals dumped streams of hydrogen into the giant, replenishing its mass and fusion power. At this obscene size and brightness, this star should have gone supernova in less than 2 million years. It would take a single photon to crawl from the core to the surface. But with careful refueling, that supernova could be averted. This giant might have been here since the dawn of stellar time. Perhaps the star had begun as some metal-poor population 2 dwarf, surrounded by meager rocky planets, but the inhabitants of one of those planets had found a way to pump their sun full of hydrogen, supercharging it, pushing it to the edge of stability, all in the name of making metal. In the early universe, elements heavier than helium were unthinkably rare, so these firstborn aliens built a forge, a fusion smelter for the atoms they needed. We turned outwards, hoping to locate pulsars in the sky and thereby fix our position, but the stars were blotted out by a swarm of bronze disk. They were satellites, a shell of artificial worlds hovering on the star's radiation. Years ago, I had proposed tearing apart Mercury to form a shell like this, and here I found my ambition achieved 1,000-fold.
Question on this one. Do we think that's what they were trying to do with our Mercury, at least in part? Because that is the one world that they have gotten pretty far in the terraforming.
It's either that, like, they could be, like, I mean, there's a couple different directions I could see this going. Like, either they've been kicked out they can't return to this world or for whatever reason, and they're trying to recreate that world in our system, and that's what they're trying to do, is they're just terraforming things and transitioning things, or they're mining it for material.
The interesting thing that comes up right after what you read is the fact that Clarity has no presence there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I'm still curious what you guys think Clarity is. What's your guys' thought?
Clarity has been kind of described as quote unquote the darkness, but I think it's been kind of like a distilled form of like radiolarian fluid that's been kind of passed through the darkness. Does that make sense?
Well, no, that's what the Alcahest is.
Yeah.
That's the Alcahest.
You combine Clarity with the Vex.
Yeah, that's what's in the pipes is the radiolarian fluid. He runs it and exposes it to the radiation of Clarity, and then the resulting... So Clarity is separate from the Vex.
The thing that
I don't think it is
bothers...
though. I don't know why it has to be separate. Sorry.
No, it's fine. We actually have very, very little information on Clarity, so it's just as viable to think that it could be somewhat Vex-related as well. The idea of Clarity, though, comes initially from K1 with the Moon Expedition and the Anomaly. And the Anomaly, we know, was found within the Moon in in the K1 site, then moved to the Anomaly Crucible map. And it was through the Anomaly that Clovis Bray figured out, hey, I'm getting these weird visions and I don't know.
That's in the Revelation lore book that you can watch the mental degradation of that entire team.
Oh my god. That one I
love that
I'm
book.
actually seriously
favorite
debating recording both of these books, both of the collector's edition books that have been out.
I love that
They're
book.
real dark though.
It's so good.
They're so dark.
It's so good. We had a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But with Clarity, he gets the idea for Clarity or from Clarity through the Anomaly, then goes to Europa and meets Clarity there.
Meets, yeah.
Like there's,
Continue. Sorry, I have like so many. My brain goes in so many different directions with that because what Clarity, like, just personally when I'm reading about Clarity, what I get is the sense of I don't know if you ever read Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, but it's very similar to that. It's very like this. The feeling that I get is very similar. It's advanced intelligence that's like, hey, we're gonna help you, but it's not. They're not malevolent, but they're not necessarily helping. Like they're making things better, like in a way. They're ending strife. They're ending all these diseases and stuff. Very similar to what the Traveler did, but like with Childhood's End, it's like it kind of toes into that whole thing of like, to less advanced species, technology is magic. Like that's kind of the whole thing there.
The thing with Clarity though is that if Clarity is something that he had to travel to Europa for, it is something that we haven't seen before, most likely. Because we've seen one of those statues, because that was my first thought, was the statue, the veiled character on the moon that we visited in the pyramid. That was my very first thought. Nothing to back that up. That was just something that popped in my head. But if it's the statue, there's already one on the moon, so he wouldn't need to travel to Europa.
I think the statue was a totemization of Clarity. Real quick, I know I haven't seen chat talk about this just yet. So I was calling it a Dyson sphere. There's actually different types of Dyson spheres. The way that they're describing this particular one, I just did want to call this one out. It is very much more like a Dyson, what's called a Dyson swarm or a Dyson bubble. So like normally when you talk about Dyson spheres, a lot of people have the idea of like that solid shell. That's a Dyson shell. That is actually a thing. But a Dyson bubble and a Dyson swarm are variants of the Dyson concept that are actually much more pragmatic in a way. They form a biosphere instead of like a solid shell, which means that they're actually able to flex with the gravity of the sun or the star. And that's where, when he calls out the destruction of Mercury, that is actually a theory and a proposition that we've had in our own world. Like, that has actually been discussed to use the elements that we have available on Mercury to allow us to construct Dyson, basically the mirror clusters that he's talking about. We would mine Mercury to construct a field or a sphere of those. That is an actual theory. There's a couple really interesting concepts on how to do pretty much what they're doing with the sun here to our own sun.
Orca, do you have any ideas what clarity is? Yeah. There's not a whole lot to pull from.
No, it's a dumb idea.
Veru was saying in chat that it's like the red lighting. He's thinking that it's the red lighting energy that was raining down from the pyramids, or the phantasmal energy, because the red coloration. Because then you have a connection of the effects of clarity is as being one of the reasons why other Vex are viewed hostile towards the Soul Divisive in the Black Garden. Mm-hmm. Because you could have, that's how you could have the segregation of the Vex within the same, or with arguably the same network. Because they're
also, the pyramid
corrupted.
On the moon is dormant.
Mm-hmm.
The pyramid on the moon is dormant. It wouldn't have any of that energy spewing out.
Arguably,
it does a little bit now.
We started waking it up, but yeah.
Huh.
And yeah, and the reason why that would cause, so the argument there is the reason why that would cause the aggression is that other Vex would identify them as corrupt, and so they are trying to expose the threat from the whole. Like, it's that hive mind mentality, which actually is another thing that he gets into within the journal, is how like we actually get a kind of really interesting look at potentially the Vex psychology. I actually really kind of found that interesting.
Can I also make a call out here for a fight that I had on Twitter?
Oh, yeah.
M. Sundaresh.
Yeah, actually, before we go can we take an ad break before we go into that one?
Let's do it.
Because I was going to make a comment about that too.
Hey friends, this is Robots, the creator of the Robots Radio Podcast Network and host of the two original shows on the network, the Fallout Lorecast and the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. These two shows have rocketed up the iTunes charts. They both together have over 150 5-star reviews in only a couple of months, with bite-sized episodes that take you step by step through the background of the games and the game worlds. They're thought-provoking, well-produced, and a lot of fun. I recommend you go check them out at robotsradio.net or on any podcast reader, podcatcher, whatever you use, iTunes, Spotify. Again, that's the Fallout Lorecast and the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, available everywhere.
All right, so this whole thing with M. Sundaresh, first off, it jacks up the timeline, but there's a reason for it, and I love how they did this. In there. But Green, what was the fight that you had?
So I may have wanted to poke specifically at Anon Pig, because he has had this lore crush on Maya Sundaresh for years. He was convinced until this release that it was the Exo Stranger was Maya Sundaresh.
No.
He's had that.
There's been, up until this release, honestly, it has been viable.
It has been. It really has been. But he's been like the biggest champion of it's Maya, right? So I was like, I'm going to pick a fight.
Jesus.
Maya is a traitor. Because Maya is here when they first go to this Vex superstar engineering wonder of this blue star that they go and get all the Vex milk from. We find out in the latter part of the book.
I was like,
that
I wanted to throw in the, but is she?
Yeah, so in the latter part of the book, we get this explanation of Maya's presence of no one knows where she came from. Clovis Bray doesn't remember hiring her, doesn't remember seeing any of her records, which in a prior entry, he talks about how she like scraped, like cleaned her record or whatever. But if there was no record to begin with, did she actually clean it?
It's very, very beautiful mind.
Just a bit.
I mean, like literally, it makes me wonder. Did anyone other than Clovis, it doesn't seem like was even able to perceive Maya.
Right. That's what Elsie doesn't remember her.
Well, Elsie doesn't. I think she's like standing in the room with Elsie, and Elsie's like, "Who are you talking?" Like, basically, it is very. Oh gosh, I think it's beautiful mind.
I think because Maya Sundaresh was already in the Vex network at that point, and so it was just the Vex like putting it in his brain.
Oh yes, but that was the whole thing, was because that wasn't revealed until we got the deleted pages. Or the
but didn't we just assume that?
No, because that was the whole thing. Up until those pages were up until those things.
Just assumed that she was there. No, sorry.
You never know.
Up until those pages. Okay, first off, I go on what's actually in the text.
I try a lot of assumptions,
which is fine. You're gonna kill Green, but that's fine.
Switch into water.
Like I can't remember if it was deliberately. I think it was not specifically called out until the deleted pages. But the problem that this caused was, while it did clarify a lot of the timeline, it also, with Maya's presence, completely borked it, because we have records of Maya being elsewhere, and so trying to rectify or trying to reconcile Maya, because was it 40 years? Maya was somewhere for 40 years or something, and it's like, what is she doing?
Well, we know she's on Mars up until a certain point. Or not Mars, Venus. Then she disappears for 40 years and then shows back up in India, because that's when she's doing the machine.
Yep, that's when she's doing the Sisyphean project. And it should be called out there that she is working with Clovis at that time with the machine.
Is she really?
I'm pretty sure she is.
I mean, it may have been an offshoot, but I don't remember
It was attached. It was not attached to Ishtar. I'm pretty sure it was not attached to Ishtar. I mean, I'll have to take that away and dig into that. But I'm pretty sure that was specifically called out, that she wasn't with Ishtar, because that's why she wasn't with Chioma anymore.
Well, yeah, you had the really sad letters back and forth, or the ones that she wanted to send.
Right. Yeah, the Vision Machine was a special assets project for the War Mind in Tibet, which is attached by proxy to Clovis Bray via the War Mind project. And then Trigger, Trigger is also saying FWC, which is where we get Future War Cult, by the way. That's Future War Cult's history, is this Vision Machine. Future War Cult's, that's the connection from Future War Cult to Clovis Bray as well.
Curious. And the way...
Oh, go for it.
I was just going to say, the way that they wrote Maya's introduction here within the book, because I think this is the first instance on page 37. Where he talks to her. He called over one of my scientists, an M. Sundaresh. I want to bring back samples. Like, he talks directly to her, but then he dispatches the other teams. Like, he doesn't have her proxy dispatch. Yep. He's the one who's still commanding the rest of them. So
it's like this beautiful combination of Fight Club and Beautiful Mind. Like,
yeah,
it really that's the sense that I get with Maya's character in this journal.
Also, I love how she annoys the crap out of him
by doing the same thing that he does to everyone else to him, because she is a reflection of his subconscious,
which is weird, and scary.
It's terrifying, but it also makes so much sense why she does the things she does, because she is literally a copy of him that the Vex are reflecting back.
The thing that gets me with this is that means that Clovis Bray was infected either immediately after going into the gate or prior, thanks to the Vex that was working for him building the gate.
I would argue it was the latter.
You think it was
because
prior with
when
the
they went through
Vex?
the gate, first off, when they went through the gate, he didn't go through the gate. He sent a proxy.
Well, he sent one of his
right. I don't think any. I don't
that he controls.
Yeah, I don't think the the only people who go through the gate, like themselves, arguably air quote there, were the exos that came later. Everyone else was using the proxy, the proxy protocol, I think is what they refer to it as, that Ishtar set into place. Because they knew what they were doing, or they knew some of what they were doing before they get in. But I really honestly, I think he was infected well before the gate even got into. I think that's part of the reason why he's obsessed with the gate, to be honest. I have a kind of a personal theory that it's this one Vex is like, ET phone home, like, let's get out of here. They keep cutting us up. And yeah, and triggers calling out, that's because, remember, even just touching the Vex metal causes hallucinations, because the Vex, the Radiolarians are kind of infused with everything. So, and that was Vault of Glass armor. The Guardians who made armor out of the Vex, and the suit of armor that you got from completing the Vault of Glass back in D1 had callouts of like the Guardians reporting like really weird dreams and visions and stuff like that when they wore, especially when they wore the helmet. They had repeated reports of visions.
Are you reading Orchid's message?
Veru's amazing.
Oh.
Can I point out, here, this is what Veru in chat, I believe that Clovis Journal is actually the first confirmation that Ishtar actually also created technology, and even in some cases were more successful than Clovis Bray.
Very much
Yeah.
so.
That's
Very
true.
much so. Like, Clovis was furious because the whole reason he went to Ishtar was to try to get
That's why he
Vex
stole. He
for
stole
one, and
from
then
them.
get exo information. Yeah. God.
Wayland Yutani stole stuff. Wait, what? Did you guys see the movie poster that they did that combined Wayland Yutani with Clovis Bray? It has a xenomorph with a ghost.
No, I hadn't seen that.
Oh, it made me happy. Let's see. Do we want to talk about? You want to talk about the Vex milk? It was that page. The Vex fluid. We're talking
30.
The mind
Page
fluid?
39. Mm-hmm.
Is that the one?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I'm trying.
So
I'm
entry
trying to make
9.
Oh my gosh. All right, so page 38, we're going to start where it says, I note that the Vex.
All right, I will read if you want me to.
Actually, real quick
Making me
before we jump into the Vex milk conversation, let's take another ad break just to recenter.
Have you ever wanted to learn more about geography without sitting through a snoozio lecture? Geography Arcade is a weekly podcast all about your favorite video games and their geographic lessons, inspirations, and even some minor analysis. Some may say analysis. Boo! Well, we're gonna learn and have fun while we talk about Pokemon, Elder Scrolls, and much more. Come join the adventure at Geography Arcade on your favorite podcatcher and YouTube.
Okay, so Vex milk, as they call it.
I note that the Vex milk from there.
Yes.
The entire paragraph. That's a really long paragraph.
Yes, please.
I note that the Vex milk, while computationally powerful, seems to avoid semiosis. That is, it prefers to mimic the actual dynamics of phenomena rather than assigning a symbol. This a fundamental difference between Vex cognition and our own. We encode inputs as symbols, manipulate the symbols according to some set of logical rules, and produce output. The Vex are more direct. Burn them and they will extinguish the fire, not because they possess a symbiotic knowledge of fire and its properties, but because their structure is so suited to adaptation and survival that the heat of the fire directly becomes the response required to snuff it out. Rather than encoding symbols, they generate self-sustaining and self-correcting patterns, which, like the suspension of a bridge flexing under strain, can accept destructive input and produce reparatory output. Words are hard.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting about the Vex being able to do that, the way that they don't have the clutter that we do when we are speaking or processing things, because we process things through steps symbolically, right? A lot of imagery pops into your head, which gets tied into letters, gets tied into words. All of that's a process that gets assigned over time. But the Vex skip all of that, which is kind of cool. And
they think and this is actually really cool. They think in what's referred to as memes, and a lot of people, when you say the word meme, they think, oh, it's the cute little blah blah blah. A meme is actually it's an actual psychological concept, and because they process things in memes.
I mean, Twitter is slowly turning into the Vex guys.
Instagram
is. It really is.
So
Sorry,
what a meme!
I'm just thinking of like the freaking chickens with their like legs. It's just like Vex memes.
Vexy
It's
legs.
just like sexy harpies with legs all day.
Yeah.
Yes!
The Vexy harpies. What was it? The Vexy long legs.
Yeah.
The wyverns.
But okay, so a meme is a unit of cultural information, such as a concept, belief, or practice that spreads from person to person in a way analogous with the transmission of genes. So, like, it's actually short for meme, which is a concept of basically exactly what this is. It's a communication process that spreads infectiously, but it doesn't use Green, what you were talking about. It doesn't use that translation within your brain that when we use words, you translate it. Different people have different accents. Different people have different meanings of words. Like the whole thing of like, do you say Coke? Do you say pop? Do you say soda? All those things. A meme kind of transcends that, and it allows a communication in a much quicker way. So when you see them talking about like when we're affected by Vex memes, as the Ishtar data warns against, I suspect that we are simply experiencing Vex patterns jumping from one substrate to another, recruiting our own brains and bodies as a media for their spread. And he goes on to say that it's not hostility. It is simply their way of interacting with the universe. We recognize it as hostility because it's overriding us. Well,
the other aspect that they talk about in the paragraph that Orchid read is the fact that they view everything as a reparatory. Like, yes. They're constantly repairing things, and to them, we are broken.
Yep,
they're fixing us, which
a balance.
Is why it's spreading.
It's going back to the theory that the Vex were involved with the flower game. They are seeking the balance of the flower game and all that. The other kind of less serious connection that I agreed was asking me if I wanted to bring up is, so there was a question.
The one who mentioned it.
Yeah, no, there's a question about where the ghosts got the idea of the word Vex milk, and this is now technically the first time that we have seen historically the first mention of the term Vex milk, which is a tenuous connection and in my opinion, a little bit of a nod towards a theory that a lot of people are starting to have, that the ghosts are not necessarily purely of the traveler. And it's now not the first time that we have technology that has been combined with these air quotes supernatural to create something that we exist around. So the Exos were designed with clarity and with the Vex. What's to say? And with Destiny 2, the base Destiny 2, we now have precedence of the Traveler's energy being harvestable.
I swear, if this becomes a reality, I'm going to retire and just call it good.
Yeah, I'm gonna, it's one of those
came back in. It was like Osiris.
Yeah, it was
for
forever. It was forever ago.
Oh my god!
Well, I mean, it's been in the back of a lot of people's minds ever since they started doing like the Dido symbol, like the symbols of Dido and stuff like that. Like, it's like that's a ghost. Like with the Aegis, the little
still don't know why they brought. We have no idea why they brought Dido back in so strongly into the game.
And dancing
still no clue.
And dancing is pulling the other major connection to this is the Traveler's energy is blue, just like our ghost eye. And so there's a lot of people who have started kind of connecting the idea that the ghosts are the combined effort of human technology and the traveler's energy, in the same way that we are now seeing the exos as being the combined translation or combined technology from humans with the purified / overexposed elements of the Vex milk with potentially elements of the darkness through clarity.
I will say a counter, though, happened with, which you didn't actually get to participate in, when they did all the Guardians got called back to the Traveler live event before Beyond Light dropped. There was a line that Ghost says that he hasn't felt this way since the Traveler first birthed Ghost. And I don't think it was actually birthed Ghost was the line, but it was since the beginning. He had not felt that way since the beginning.
I mean, so, and to play devil's advocate there, there's a lot of ways that they could, that we could write that. I mean, you could have Ghosts not have memories. The exos, we have now proof that they can manipulate the memories of different things. There's a lot of different directions that are still completely open. I know Orchid, this will probably feel like familiar territory. You're talking about making assumptions.
Yeah.
This is taking a lot of implied connections. I will be very clear there. This is currently firmly in the territory of headcanon and not provable. But I think that there are a lot of little whispers of connections that, to me, line up pretty nicely.
If it happens, I will die happy.
That's up there with your Osiris theory. Like,
that is, I don't know if that one's real or not. It'd be cool.
I think that would be so funny. Like, I think it would be so fun. Let's see. I think that's actually a pretty good transition point into our next episode, actually, because
where we talk about
that kind of the session, I guess. Because I think the next one we're going to be talking about how this information from the Vex, and this information from Clarity, and the combination of those two is both a solution and yet another problem in the development of exos. But that will be the next session. So for this session, do you guys have any shout-outs or final thoughts? Orchid? Did she?
Shout out to all your Vex milk drinkers.
I'm wondering where the humming is going. Like, it's like we get Okay. Green, what about you?
I don't know how to follow that up, but shout out to all of the voice actor volunteers for Destiny Lore Audiophile. I've actually had a influx of people wanting to help with it, which is awesome. And if you are somebody who has always been curious about doing voice acting or have just thought about contributing to the Destiny community in any way, shape, or form, if you want to read one of the lore books or even a few cards, I'm more than happy to put that out for Destiny Lore Audiophile. It is a community-driven show after all. So big thank you for the voice actors who are already working with me and for the possible future ones that'll be coming out. So that's my shout out.
My big shout out to Live Chat for sticking with us for the past year. This has been a very trying year. Just a big thank you for spending your year with us. I know because you guys are all locked down in houses, there's not much else you can do. So, yay, cabin fever.
Shout out to St. Jude for the COVID study.
I just saw that. That is awesome. Thank you, chat, for correcting me on my terminology. That's what I have you. That's what I keep you around here for. But also, just again, a quick reminder: be sure to check out thelorenetwork.com to make sure that I'm doing things correctly there too, because you guys are really good at Peninsula. Thank you, dancing. That's not the word I was going for. And as always, be sure to leave us a review and comment over on iTunes. And then as I've gotten into the habit of saying, thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.